What's up, everyone? My name is Tracy, and welcome to another episode of Tunnellight Podcast. On today's episode, we have a special guest. I found him on YouTube originally, and so we just kind of I reached out to him and I was like, hey, you should jump on this podcast because I think that he has like a lot of very valuable knowledge. It's like every time I meet someone who's also like on the same path as I am, like towards progression, towards like self development, but most importantly, because it is all within the spirituality umbrella. I'm always like looking to, like get to know them a little bit more and pick their brain a bit. So, yes, so his name is Jose Vallejo, better known as Lucid Living on YouTube. And you can also find him on his website. That's simply lucidliving.com. And I'll go ahead and link all the information in the description box. He's a spiritual coach. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I should refer you as Tracy or Tunnellight, but I'm excited to be on here. And yeah, we connected through social media, through YouTube, and I'm always glad to share what I know. So I'm excited.
Yay. Cool. Well, I'm happy you're here. And every time that I meet someone on this path, it's like I'm always wondering like what even brought them to this world of spirituality. So
Mhm.
like did something drastic like me occur or how did you even like stumble upon this?
So the way I came across spirituality was kind of little background about me is that I was always like a very curious kid. I liked fantasy books. I read some of my favorite books was like Aragon. I also was really into the series, I think it was called Warriors by Aaron Hunter. It was about these cats, but there was like clans, fire, earth, water, and air. And all of these, and I grew up with all of these things, fantasy books. And as I got into like my teenage years, I started being more scientific, more practical, kind of shied away from my books, kind of stopped reading. And then once I got into college, I started picking up my habit again of reading books. And I have a I don't know, like it's a funny thing. I feel like I talk a lot about books in my videos, but that kind of was like my gateway to my imagination, to possibilities. And unknowingly, I started creating my life, like bringing that imagination into my like current reality, that way of thinking. And so I realized that I started to pick up psychology books, just so I could get better. I got into self-development, started watching a lot of YouTube videos on just self-improvement. And then I started to pick up meditation for one of my courses, specifically just so I could be better at math. Because I heard that, yeah, I was a good student. I was pretty good at math, but I wanted to be like the best student, at least the best that I could be.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up some meditation, and along the way I just tapped into
I'm
something
sorry.
different.
Did you
What's
see
up?
it? Did you see an improvement? Did it actually work?
Yeah. It
Oh,
was
that's good.
okay. That's another, that's if I had to, the first thing that I tell people when they ask me about meditation is like, I tell them about this story where I used it for my classes and for my studies, and it actually does like help. I think the biggest thing was just focus. Like I would be in class and I would be a lot more focused. I could sit there and for like an hour just be in this trance, and listen and really like explore my mind, and do the calculations in my head and explore different like possibilities while the teacher was speaking. And I was kind of the guy that people would come to for questions because I knew what was going on. So I definitely saw an improvement. And then not only did it happen in class, but then it started going into my interactions with my friends, with just my interactions being alone, reading. Like I got a lot better at reading. And and then I just dove deeper. Since I had started in psychology, that's kind of where I picked up meditation from, where it recommended it. I got deeper into psychology, and then that's where I started to learn about the psyche, and then I started to ask questions about spirituality.
Mm. Wow. So it's like you went like full circle, you know?
Yeah. It was a mix of like some scientific, some also metaphysical, and yeah, I feel like the biggest thing for me that really like began the spiritual journey was just my curiosity, though. Just my need my desire for experimentation and questioning like possibilities of like, you know, what is the best way to go about doing things. And that's kind of how I approach every single one of my, just the things that I teach.
Mm, okay. Right. Like you want to like expand a little bit more on each topic and then teach people, like a little bit more on that specifically. I was going to say too
Mm-hmm.
that like it also proves that with meditation, all those neural pathways are opening up. And so that's how you can
Mm-hmm.
literally start like thinking of like solutions, like you said, like mathematically and other ways. And the ability to stay focused is like really, really hard, for some people because like nowadays everyone has such a short attention span.
Yeah.
So like if
It,
you like you notice yourself the difference right away.
yeah. Something I'd like to mention too is that right now, like you said, like short attention span, something that I learned was that the ability to stay focused is actually going to be a skill that people, that's going to be like very, how do you say, it's going to be very rare. It's going to actually, like, a lot of your like your income is going to come from your ability to be focused. I think that right now with everything becoming more automated, I think that in the future we're going to be seeing people just like distinguish themselves through deep work, which is something that I learned about. It's a term coined by Cal Newport. He's a researcher teaching people how to be like better workers and better students. But he talked about deep work, which is basically this skill that you can expand on. You know, that we all have like an ability to work for long periods of time um, and not being distracted. And he said that you can actually expand on that the more you do it. And I always draw like parallels with meditation, because with meditation, it's not very easy in the beginning, but it's like it's a skill also. And it has so many benefits that will be able to distinguish you from the general population. You know, it boosts your creativity, it boosts your focus, it reduces your stress. And yeah, it just says a lot for like the benefits that spirituality brings into your life.
Wow. Yeah, I believe it 100%. Um, as a health coach, that's something very important that they taught while I was earning my certificate is the fact that you have to incorporate it all. Like if you want to
Hmm.
truly live like a happy, fulfilling life, then you do have to consider much more than just your diet and exercise, like also your sleep, the way you sleep. And there's so many like intricacies within every little thing, but it's like if you could just like generally find whatever works best for you, then I think that that's how every person, individually can optimize their lifestyle. Like if you do another thing that meditation teaches is the fact that you can just be more mindful about your everyday actions. So it could be something little like a craving. It's like, oh, I want to reach out for that candy bar, but then it's like, no, no, like I don't know, there's something always that like keeps you like on this like clear path. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but it's like also with like the distractions, like that's another thing that kind of like really, really sets the foundation of how you're going to do everything. It's like, you know, yeah, like I could see how that really, really helps.
Yeah, and I feel like it does tie in together where like it might seem like it's all over the place, but in the end it all just comes back to that one thing, which is really just you and like your ability to go and like take a direct path towards like the things that you desire.
Mm-hmm.
That we live in a very noisy world, so I think that, you know, all these things that we're talking about here are really going to be important factors that will keep on adding more and more onto you as a person to like be able to just get things done.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the little things that you start tweaking here and there, such as maybe a sleep pattern, right?
Hmm.
If you know that you're not getting good sleep, if you know that maybe you're on your phone and this light is not good, it's not good for us first thing in the morning, and it's not good for us at night. So if we could,
Right.
and during the day, if you're just gonna be on your phone, like in of itself, it's bad. But like you could kind of like retract a bit and then say like, okay, I want to get better sleep. I want to stay asleep and etc. So if I just like actively work towards correcting that, you know what I mean? Like I know that it's gonna overall give me like, well, there's like endless benefits to getting good sleep.
Yeah.
Dr. Andrew Huberman like really emphasizes on this too, is the way we sleep and everything. So yeah, it's like, and it's like, if you're unhappy with something, then you have the ability to correct it. And that's why, like we said, it's like meditation is your key to like keep all of that in mind.
Yeah, I think another thing that I keep thinking about that I'm always gonna go back to is that at least something that I've realized myself is that the biggest problem of humanity is actually unconsciousness, and I also think that unconsciousness is also going to be the key, like the your ability to dive into the unconscious is going to help you actually make the unconscious something, well, make the unconscious conscious. So like, for example, you're talking about being distracted and finding the best ways to improve your sleep. Well, the biggest thing that's going to slow you down from doing that is just going to be your lack of self-awareness. So any practice that's going to help you be more conscious and be more aware of who you are and of yourself and your habits, that practice is going to basically going to improve your life, and it's actually going to help you get through any of the problems that come through you. I think that the biggest thing that I've found to help me get through any relationship problem, any problem in school, any problem in my work, what has helped me has been my ability to be aware and to be aware of like my resources, my inner resources, rather than like automatically look outwards. So it's always going to come back to, I think, the one thing that's going to connect all of these things that we're talking about is really just going to be consciousness. How conscious are you? And meditation and spirituality is going to be constantly asking you or pushing you to ask yourself, how conscious are you in this moment? And how is that affecting you right now?
Right. And and one more thing, like, is that it also like ties you into the present moment. And so if you really like think about it, and it's hard, because not everyone can think in a way that Eckhart Tolle, lives in the
Mhm.
present moment like 24/7. Um, he just simply means is that there's no immediate danger or stress or anxiety or fear. There's like nothing. Like right now we're chilling, right? But when we get off, like, like everything that's going on, maybe like any worries. I'm generally happy. I've been working on this, but
Mhm.
I'm just saying, like, for the typical individual, not everyone has it like how we do, but for those especially who are struggling, it's like once you you know if you're not living within that moment, if you don't have awareness, if you don't bring that consciousness to the unconscious, then there's no way that you can like really pull yourself out. You're kind of like just stuck everywhere but the present moment. So yeah, it's like it they go hand in hand, like yeah, consciousness and the present moment. because
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, I'll get water instead of like an unhealthy beverage.
yeah,
Like it's the little things that compound over time, and then overall like gives you who you really are.
yeah. I feel like that's a good point that I want to like just expand upon, which is that the thing that really hit me with like Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. I remember reading it, and I was talking to one of my friends, and I basically scared her because she was like, I gave her this concept of like, okay, look, like there's nothing outside of the now. Like all of that you have within the past is just a story that you carry within you, and all that you have within about the future is also a story that you carry. Like that isn't something tangible. Like all these memories are just like pictures in your brain that were actually morphed and adjusted based on your interpretations. And she was super scared. Like she didn't want to go into that because it was it was complete, like I didn't know how scared. Like for me, that was intriguing. That like blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, like nothing else matters. It's only here. It's only now.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's a scary realization, that I think the reason she was scared was because of her ego. Like it was like her ego was afraid of the idea that you don't really exist, like because the ego only exists in the
Hmm.
future and in the past. But when it becomes the now, the ego disappears, and it has to be like, it has to surrender to the moment. And so your ability to be conscious is going to be your ability to let go of your ego and let it dissipate in the face of everything, in the face of like trials, in the face of like successes. And I think that that's something that that is huge, because then that's like the main factor here, which is really like presence is possibility, presence is like now, and presence is the only real thing. And I think it's the only, and for me, I think it was very like um it was very welcoming, like that idea that, you know what, there's only been now and there will only ever be now. So like, even people talk about death, well, to me, death, even if I did die, then to me, I'd still experience it as a now, you know? So I don't know, that was something that I think that's the thing that just brings it all together, which is like, you know, now is possibility, and now is really, you can only enter the now through awareness.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I sucks that you had to give your friend a, what they call it, an existential
It's a
crisis.
crisis, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
right. We were eating canes. I don't know if you guys have canes where you're from,
Hell
but
yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we were eating canes. After that, she was all right. We so yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
The ego's
Yeah,
like, this tastes good. This is
yeah, yeah.
fine.
She's like, yeah, exactly.
Uh, cool. So then, yeah, so which brings me to my next question is like, would what philosophies or what about religion? Like what stood out to you the most has helped you guide you through this spiritual journey?
Also, like, so you're basically like different schools of thought and different belief systems.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
anything.
Okay, so I grew up in a Catholic household. My parents are Mexican, so they're a lot of emphasis on Catholicism, and and I mean, my mom wasn't really strict with me. She wasn't always, she we had like the normal ceremonies, like the communion and all of that stuff, but I wasn't ever serious about it. I didn't really understand the significance. To me, religion was just a set of rituals that had no meaning towards them. And so, but I was curious about it because I wanted to know about God. Like, I was curious about, you know, this higher force, this higher being. So, you know, I took the Bible up on as like as just a way to think, to introspect, but I kind of let it go. And I realized that I realized that, like, from a very like detached perspective, that all religions share some common truth. I don't know what the term is called. I know there's a term, but the
Omnism.
yeah, yeah, that yeah, basically. So like there's a universal line that just like cuts through every single religion and every set of belief that actually like connects you to all of them. And so to me, that's where I set out and wanted to find the things that are actually universal. So for me, I'm always going to be the person that's going to look into the psychology of people, because everybody has a mind, and everybody's mind is structured in a very similar way. This is where I tap into Carl Jung's like his way of just looking into things, the belief systems that he created, the concepts that he created.
Yeah,
um
he's the father of archetypes and
yeah,
personality traits and all that.
yeah. He's actually one of like the first psychologists, basically, that got psychology like into science. Like him with Sigmund, with Freud, they were working together, and they were actually really good friends, um until Carl Jung started talking about the spiritual aspect of psychology. Freud wasn't about it, and he kind of started like deviating from Carl
Mhm.
Jung. But in the end, Carl Jung came up with all of these different terms, in the individuation, archetypes, synchronicities, and other things that I can't recall right now. But the things that I really resonated with are always gonna come back to like the archetypes. So those archetypes are going to be things that I come back to whenever I need to. Things that the things that I find are found everywhere. I mean, think about it like this. Like, I looked into psychology, I looked into anthropology, I looked into philosophy, and I stumbled upon a form of development that a lot of human beings like just progress through in their lives, and they can't avoid it. It's something that, you know, some people are at different levels, but these systems are actually pointing to something higher. They're going into something, into a consciousness and awareness that is more refined. and more competent. So something that I've always used, that I've always looked into, has been like the masculine archetype. You know, for me, I struggled a lot with finding out what it meant to be a man. So when I looked into these archetypes, I found the four right there. Basically, when I found it's a concept by Robert Moore, right? And he came up with the four like structures of the male psyche, which was the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. And these are the things I always come back to, because really these structures are things that we hold within us when we're children. So we have like the immature masculine, and then we have the mature masculine. And when I like keep growing into these concepts, I noticed that there's actually like a shadow version. Oh, this is where I also talk about the shadows, where there's it's like a lower version, a lower state of the higher expression, which is like the king, for example.
Wait, what? Say that again. A lower expression of the higher state
Yeah.
of one of the four.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so I mean, that's just me trying to define the shadow. The shadow, I would just define it as something which is just it's basically a shadow, you know, like it's not the object, but it's the reflection of the object. And it's a two-dimensional version of it, meaning that it's more simplified and kind of just not as complex, and also not as complete. So when we look at the archetypes, there's ways that people behave that are symbolic of the shadow version of themselves. So, you know, some people like to label others as good or bad. And when you think about these concepts of the shadow, really, it's not that. Like, the shadow might be labeled as what is bad, but in reality, like, that person also has the same ability as anybody else in this world to convert those, like, that shadow into something higher. So when I see like for example, the magician was an archetype that I was very like attached to, was very like called to. We all have ones that we're more called to. And there's also like, you can also parallel this with like the female psyche, because there's like the mother and the maiden, the queen, like something like that, right? I'm not very clear on that, but something that I really like to like look into is the idea of the magician. The magician is like the shaman. The magician is the one who's like a very like a good source of knowledge, the wise man, the medicine man. And this is an idea that many people have a conception of in various cultures. And so the lower expression of that would kind of be like the person who, like the know-it-all, that is always saying, like, is trying to take up any opportunity to display his intellect. And then there's the other side of that, the other bipolar side of that will be I think I don't know the name, but it's the person he's always acting dumb, who doesn't want to use his intellect and display that, or like even try to show it, you know. It's the person who
he has it, but he's trying to suppress it.
Yeah, basically. So and so this is cool, because then you get an idea of like, okay, actually the two sides of the shadow are really either overemphasis or underemphasis, and that's where you get the bipolarity of them. So people who are always trying to make up for something are the ones who are expressing one aspect of the shadow, but the ones who also are too afraid to step up into that energy are also displaying another aspect of the shadow. But guess what? They're still displaying the same energy, just in different forms. So that's something that I really just based my whole like concept of spirituality off that, because I think that that everything, you know, if I were to ever say, you know, people were to ask me, you know, what's good, what's bad, what's evil, for me, like all sorts of evil, like the source of evil is just unconsciousness, but there is no judgment upon evil. For me, it's just like, you know, it's just a form of expression, rather than it being labeled as, you know, this is the enemy, because we all have that. We're all connected to that shadow. So that's an important lesson that I learned in my spirituality. And it's something it's a concept that's so big that I feel like if everybody were to take into account and look upon their own shadow, like religion and all this stuff, like war and all this, would be understood. And it's something that I use as a guide whenever I'm talking to people.
Wow. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that's what helped me overcome judgment of others. And obviously it becomes first, it's internal. And so therefore I displayed it outward. But then once I realized just how much it's like I don't like that part of me. I wish I could correct it. And I think that's like what judgmental people feel, but they don't. I don't know. I guess it's the lack of consciousness that they're not
Yeah,
aware of, that they feel that within themselves. So therefore it's like projected outward and they think that it's really the world.
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
but once you like realize that like everyone has been through some trauma, everyone has, comes from different backgrounds and religions, like if you really were to understand that everyone is so unique, then we can release all judgment. We can like live our lives without having to like express so much, towards each
Hmm.
other. That's why like people who are conscious, they're the ones who like don't react, like we respond. And our sometimes our response is being just silent, you know what I mean? I use this example in the past, but that's because my road rage was pretty bad. You know, it's like here in Chicago, there's like city traffic. It drives me nuts. But now it's like, okay, whatever. I can easily let it go, and that's something. And I used to have these dreams. They stopped. They just ceased. But I used to have these dreams of getting into a car crash often, and I don't know. It's like, did I died that way in a past life or something? Like I all I know is that like that is very dangerous. And so I couldn't
Hmm.
help but make the correlation between those dreams and
Road rage.
the road rage.
Hmm.
So it's like I shone light onto this like little anger issue that I have
Hmm.
when I'm driving. And then it's like the dreams just disappear. That's what makes me believe that we are highly powerful. Like we have much more direction in our lives than we think if we just pick up on the cues. If we could just like be receptive to the universal messages, through our dreams,
Hmm.
through people, and through synchronicities, everything. It's like, yeah, I want to shout it out to the world just how much spirituality actually helps you out as a person. If you want to succeed in this 3D earth, then you're gonna have to think in spiritual terms, because
Yeah.
once you work, it's like you're working from the top down. It's like, okay, I'm doing the best I can. I'm shining light. I'm, working on my shadow, this and that. Because here on earth, as a grounded person, like we're not like living in la la land either. It's like, okay, I'm thinking in spiritual terms, in a spiritual sense, because I want to progress and move forward as a human being in this short lifetime. That's what I'm trying to work on.
I think so. I think something that you've touched on, which was like, working from the top down. I think spirituality is the best way to approach life in terms of like the most effective and most efficient way. Just because if you were to, there's another concept that I really use. It's like the concept of as above, so below. There's this book that I read that was very big. It's the Kabbalion. It's like supposedly it's by the three initiates. People don't really know who the author is, but that's what they say.
Like it was a
And
channeled book, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm not sure if it was channeled. It's
Oh, no, no, no. It's not channeled. I think they're like it's something like the emerald tablets. Like
yeah,
they're
it's similar. It's similar.
templates, or yeah.
Yeah, but one of the like the biggest thing that I learned is like as above, so below. So as within, so without. Like as within your psyche, so as it is in the universe. So if you learn to look within, you can also learn to look without. And instead of trying to approach your world from out towards in, you have to go in out because you're the source. And and I think there's a language here where the symbolic language that I picked up as I was reading Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, who's kind of like the similar to Carl Jung in that he teaches about the psyche, but in relationship to mythology. Um,
Mythology, sir. Wait, what's his name? I'm gonna write this down.
yeah, Joseph Campbell,
Oh,
C
okay.
A C A M P B E L L. Um, he's got very good books. He wrote this book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which is basically about archetypes also.
Mm.
But something that I learned is that like your consciousness, like that your unconscious actually communicates to you in symbolic language. So just like you interpreted your dream as like, oh, this is actually the suppressed side of my road rage. You know, my road rage is more like exertion versus the fear being more going inwards. The fear is kind of like a suppressed aspect of it. And so your consciousness is always going to seek harmony. It's always going to seek for union and harmonization between both aspects so that they can be expressed fully. And so there's something that as you guys like progress and start to look into the mind and look into the language and the mode of expression of the unconscious, you start to pick up on terms of on ways of seeing the world which we're not very which we're not used to, and which a lot of people aren't used to. And so kind of like when this idea of spirit being the primary force, the primary essence of all things, and matter just being the lower expression of that's another teaching that I learned, which is that I just took on because of the fact that matter is kind of it's the densest material, and spirit being the highest. And when you're tapped into higher levels of expression, so there's like the physical, emotional, mental, and then spiritual. And like when you start like going upwards in the ladder, you can actually, as you said, like look top down and be able to actually change things as the source rather than trying to change things from the bottom, like struggling upwards.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is why so many people resonate with the law of attraction, because we wish it could be easy waving the wand around. But because we do live in a physical world, we're gonna have to take physical action to manifest that, to to bring that to fruition.
And
But oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, I think that action is also just an expression of intention of like if you were to think about it, like what follows intention, it's like action. So and then what's the source of intention? Probably inspiration. And what's inspiration? It's like spirit. So like
Yeah.
yeah, so that's it, really.
Whatever comes from the core is like who you have been, like over many cycles of life. I think that like we kind of like what's the word, like calibrate, like every life cycle. It's like we calibrate, but then it's like, okay, are we like moving like as spirit, as infinite spirit, like are we moving upward, you know and if we were to get very esoteric, like dimensional wise, like
Mm-hmm.
um uh, I'm sure you know about the age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like that's us moving, shifting to 5D. I don't know, they say that we're in 40
Mm-hmm.
40 now, and
Yeah.
5D. But yeah, that's just like, it's um like all the teachers said that right now like is actually the most potent time, so we could accelerate our spiritual growth like tremendously if we do the work.
Yeah, and if we're like if we and the conscious and consciously, right? Like consciously doing it. I think
Hmm.
in reality, your ability to be aware is gonna be what accelerates your growth. But what's your idea on karma? Where I'm curious, where like so people say, oh, you came into this life to do X, right? Do you think that it's finite? Where like, okay, so that you did that and that's your purpose, or do you think that we can actually, there's actually more to it than we think?
Well, I think, I believe that because there are infinite timelines,
Mm-hmm.
going on simultaneously, then we could actually change the trajectory of our life. Um, that's a hard one, though, to debate, because it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
we kind of know, it's like I am so drawn to health. I
Mm-hmm.
love everything that entails within the scope of health. So that's like really hard to debate, because it's so strong in me that anything I do is related to health ultimately. And then um but then I feel that at the same time, like if I were to work on let's say this podcast, let's say that I become like the one of the best speakers in the world. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I changed from helping people in a way. I guess like the basis is always going to be helping people, but the
Right.
question is how. So I could really, really be like a really excellent health coach, or I could be a really, really excellent speaker. I could be, I could do that.
Or you could be speaking about health, right?
Hey,
Right?
right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty, I think, so one thing that I got in deep into esotericism, like just like esoteric, like the wheel of life, like the spinning the wheel. Um, this concept of you come into this life and you incarnate for so that you learn specific lessons. But I feel like those lessons, like you can actually learn lifetimes of lessons. Like maybe like you had this plan to like learn the next lesson after this life, but in reality, you just learn both of those lessons. So that's where I was going, where it's like maybe our evolution isn't really limited to one lifetime. Our evolution is really just limited by how much we want to take in, how aware we choose to be in this like present moment.
Right, right. I think that I don't like my family, we come from a low income, you can say.
Hmm.
And like my grandmother, they were like small business owners. So I wouldn't say that I come from a generation of wealth, right? Just generation after generation. That's not within my timeline, or that hasn't been within my timeline thus far. But I think that potentially if I really, really work hard and I make that possible, well, I like technically I kind of am because I'm already doing way better. I forgot this girl's name on YouTube, but she really talks about something that she mentioned that like kind of like scared me almost, but I didn't let it get to me, was when she said that like basically we're going to make the same that our parents made, so if they're like just barely pushing through, then that's actually like it's almost a curse. It's like that's actually generation after generation, and it's a very common pattern. And it's because like overall like the fundamentals of how they manage their money are kind of like the same, like probably rich and wealthy families have said like save a little, invest a little, education, things like that. But yeah, I think that's something that like you said, like two things can be fixed. So maybe I am that one generation. My sister and my brother, we're also doing really good, like we're actually not struggling financially. So it might have been something that a curse, or not I don't want to say curse, but it might have been like um that karma that was
Yeah.
finally like that it finally ended there. And from here on forward is when I'll experience wealth. I'm going to make sure that my son is said, I'm going to make sure that our whole family is good. My family, like I said, like my brother and sister are doing really well.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that like there's a lot of aspects that you can correct. And as you said, it's up to you to
Yeah.
like live to your fullest potential.
Yeah. I was thinking also like generational karma. Like when you were talking about that, I was just thinking about how our parents' trauma and our parents it's actually even proven scientifically that we carry our parents' trauma in our genes. So actually we have the ability right now, like if you're listening to this, it's like you have the ability to transcend that karma. And I think we all come here with the gifts and the tools to do that. We're just not aware of them. So you're the deciding factor that, will change the story of not only your life, but also the lives of all the people that came before you.
Right, right. Yeah. And because time isn't linear, it's like it doesn't really matter, right?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? Hold on. Um, oh yeah, fuck it. But since we've entered, I don't know if 2020 or 2012, like if what the Mayans have predicted.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, right? But whenever the age of Aquarius actually is, if from 2012 to 2020 is only 8 years of difference. And so I think that the momentum was already building up before any year, and so I'm kind of curious, like now that we've like entered a new age, which
Mhm.
is also it also correlates with the age of information and technology. They like with our spiritual evolution during this time, and with that in mind, with tech in mind, like how do you see us progressing? Like where do you see us in the future? Like let's say 50 years from now.
Okay, so it's gonna be so what I based on what I've seen right now. So me, like, just so you guys understand a little about me, which is that I'm always going to be diving deep into not only the spiritual aspects of life, but also the practical aspects. So I'm studying like businesses, I'm studying like business models right now. I'm studying the industries that are kind of fading out and the ones that are coming in, the companies and the new kinds of like just the focus of like the general population. For example, right now, there's a lot of research into psychedelics. We have a lot of people looking into psychedelics for healing. There's like this transition towards towards more renewable sources of electricity, of energy. And something that I've just been thinking about has been this idea that we're going to be shifting into a world which is more compact in terms of like there being this emphasis put on communities and put on friends, like friend groups. You know, like when I think of Aquarius, I think of groups of people, and I think of also of innovation. So like it's kind of like we're going to be entering a world where people have like tribes, you know, they have their own smaller communities where they're going to be led by like this leader. And like what's opposite of Aquarius, it's Leo. And there's something that I read in one of the esoteric texts where like, you know, um Aquarius is kind of what is seen, what is going to be known, but like what's the opposite side of it, which is Leo, is also going to be it's going to be what's going to be driving that. So what's going to be driving this like world is going to be creativity, art, expression,
Mm,
this push towards just like seeing the world and being a more expressive person, and seeing groups that are being led by these kinds of people, by the this Leo energy. So I kind of feel like, you know, even seeing YouTube right now and seeing like how social media has been adapting, I feel like like government, I don't know. I don't know where government is going, but for example, in the United States, I feel like there's gonna be this transition towards people getting together and moving into in terms of like locally creating their own structure, their own ways of living, and even like virtually where people are creating communities where they feel more connected to each other. For example, for me, I have this vision of creating a community of people who are spiritual and are guided by this vision of creating a better world. You know, so it's like people are going to be, uh, I don't know, to say for sure like where we're going to go. I'm not too worried about virtual reality. I think that everything is just a tool, and the people who know how to use the tools right will be able to change the direction of society. You know, even crypto right now, like crypto is going to change the economy. A lot of people don't believe it. I think that it's already happening.
I think we're on
Um,
the verge. I think we're hanging on by a thread
yeah,
with the dollar, the US dollar.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I feel like fiat is just going to be, it's going to be thrown to the side for sure. I think it's still going to have its value, it might have its place, but in reality, like crypto is going to be what's going to, it's really just a byproduct of like Aquarian energy. And so this decentralized way of currency is going to change the whole structure of like the economy. And something cool that I was thinking about this. I think it was kind of like a download where I was thinking about, okay, why aren't artists like why don't artists have like their own communities? Like why like what if I could bet on an artist? Like he's an up and coming artist and I like his music and I'm gonna invest my money into this guy's like albums and stuff. And that's what NFTs are for, kind of like now NFTs are coming up, like and now people can start like instead of it being about royalties, now it's about the fans, it's about the community, and it's about the
Wow.
artists. Like, hey guys, I have this NFT. You know, if you guys buy this NFT, you guys are gonna have like you know, priority over others. You know, you're gonna be VIP members. You're gonna be closer to me. Like you guys are gonna be like the true fans. So I don't know if you were to think about all these little small changes long term, it's really going to come down to people feeling like there's like an exchange, like the exchange of energy is going to be much more clear. I feel like the exchange of like, I have these skill sets, you have those skill sets. Let's come together and see how we can create a better community. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
and work towards this vision. I'm thinking kind of like even like the trade system, like the currency, it's not going to be so much about it's going to be more about utility, just like crypto is about utility. People buy coins based off their utility, you know. um and so based off, and also based off like how they can serve you. So same thing with people in general, like I'm going to hire people because I don't know, I'm going to like this, like also like coaches are new, you know, coaches are a new thing. So like maybe everybody's gonna have their own coach. You know, I'm gonna have a health coach, a fitness coach, a business coach, and I'm gonna be a coach also in terms of spirituality. You know, so everybody has something to offer in this world that's coming up. I think it's a positive thing, but I only think it's positive because I am approaching the world in a positive way. So yeah,
Oh, definitely. That was well said. And it
thank you.
paints a beautiful picture. And
Yeah.
I think just how you said that, you're creating your community. You have the community already on YouTube, but you want to take it to a whole nother level.
Hmm.
And then it's like, and then those people get to work together because they found a common interest, but then it's like, oh, then they may exchange services and so forth. So it really,
Exactly.
so it really is all about working together. And just as you're doing your part, I'm doing my part, and it's like everyone has something to offer. So, um, yeah, that was wonderfully said. I
Yeah. Sorry, one more thing I wanted to add
uh-huh.
is that I just remembered this was that Aquarius kind of like when I hear astrologers talk about Aquarius, they kind of talk about like the cog and the wheels, like the wheel and the cogs or whatever. Like we're all like a wheel in this machine. We're all part of this machine. And a lot of people kind of want to like make that a negative thing. But in reality, like we all are part of this complex system that we call like planet Earth, you know. So what I've always gone back to, you know, people always like there's this like Sagittarian energy in terms of politics, where like people always want to display, like put the responsibility on people like outside of themselves. And I'm always gonna say like, okay, but what's your part in this
Mm-hmm.
universe? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's your what? You know what? Let's stop asking about outside. Let's stop looking at the machine. Let's look at the one piece that contributes to the machine, which is you. And I think like my work is going to be on is pointing you to being the highest expression of that machine. So then that way, not only do you light up, but you also light up the all other pieces around you, which are other people around you. So that's another aspect that I really think about when it comes to the Aquarius age.
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely. It's kind of like asking, or what you call it? It's like telling the captain to sink the ship that we're all in. It doesn't make sense. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like we're the backbone of like why it's even occurring in the first place. And yeah,
Right.
we have no choice. I mean, like, okay, well, just to simplify it, it's like we have no choice but to take part in this matrix. Like, we can't just do whatever the fuck we want because there's
Mm.
consequences. But if this is so, then if this is Earth, then we have to like maximize this energy then. And so
Right.
I believe that we too like have the power to take direction of like where we want to take the world, because technology is our friend. This is the whole reason why you and I are communicating now, is because they are excellent tools. It's neutral, and so we're the ones who are gonna like take control of like what we want to do with this. It could be for some heinous crime, it could be like the black market, it could like just all the bad stuff that's on the internet, anything that you could do with the internet, censorship, or
Yeah.
it could be like towards towards for this purpose.
Hmm.
So another thing that I like that you mentioned is the fact that, like, again, money is another neutral tool. So how I spend my money is very important. Who I give my energy, my money to, my hard-earned cash, like who I'm gonna give that to, is something that I'm always keeping in mind. So I try to shop small business as much as I can, because they're another person just like me. So it's a real human. And you know, it comes down to that, and it comes down to like I mean so many other things, but like money is like the biggest example, or is the easiest example that I can give, just because that's something that truly dictates like where you're gonna continue to support this corporation or this business.
Yeah, it's consumerism is you know, it's a part of life, but we can direct, like, you know, it's like it's either you're like mastered by it or you're the master. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of, it reminds me of the time when you know, no, Chick-fil-A announced that they were closed on Sundays. I know it's like a Christian base, right? Do you know of
I think
Chick-fil-A?
so. I've heard of it. I've heard of it. It's like religious reasons kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But then they also discriminate against gay people. So then that blew up into a big deal because they're like,
Okay.
what? You know, you're not going to support the LGBTQ community and things like that. So, you know, it's like the little things. I stopped eating fast food a long time ago, you know,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
so
same
many
here.
reasons. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
bad in every way. So that's me. I, you know, I'm doing it for myself. I'm going to be healthy. I'm doing it because I don't support fast food restaurant chains. I think that they're terrible, and
hmm,
everything in between. So yeah, but I also have high hopes for the future.
yeah,
I think that, like, to put it simply, there's way too many of us. I feel it. I see it online, and I could feel it, that we really are gonna overcome this pandemic and this war, and everything that's going on right now is still purging out. I think that we're not just, you know, in the clear yet, but that's how I try to maintain like my peace and tranquility, and just keep on pushing towards what I'm trying to make possible in this world, and not focus so much on that. Definitely be
yeah,
informed. I definitely am always like keeping up on truth and everything, you know, like everything that's going on in current world events, but ultimately it's like I'm not gonna let it drain me either. I really much rather like to focus on what I'm doing now and contribute, you know, positively. And
yeah,
if we all go down burning, I know that I tried. I know I did
yeah,
my very best, but at least I'm
yeah,
trying.
yeah, exactly. And also just another thing to know is that, like, again, Aquarian energy, it's energy, you know. So it's gonna have its positive and its positives and its negatives. It's gonna have the positive expression, negative expression. So awareness and just being more conscious is gonna allow you to distinguish them both, and then it's gonna allow you also to know like what you should do for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I think right now is a good way to end the show by do you want to remind people once again where we can find you?
Oh yeah, yeah. So just look me up on YouTube, Lucid Living. Find me on Instagram. It's I am underscore Lucid Living, and check out my website at simplylucidliving.com.
Yes, please do so. I think that you get, well, I don't know your, what you call it, the statistics, but I'm pretty sure they have a broad male audience, right? I feel like your the kind of content that you give mostly on YouTube is like more towards like the male.
Yeah, I try. Like I feel like that's kind of what I go for, but I, you know, I actually feel like it's kind of been like half and half. It's kind of funny,
Oh yeah.
but yeah,
I mean, it definitely, you know, like I said, I've been following you, so
yeah.
I definitely like what you
That goes to
share.
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Cool. All right.
appreciate
Well,
you.
thanks again for jumping on this podcast. I hope that we work together again in the future.
Yeah, of course. I was glad to be here. Thank you.
Cool. Take care. All right then. Bye everyone. Much love and peace and avocado grease.